Welcome to another episode of CrimePrint. My name is Thomas, and I will be your guide through this true crime story I'm going to tell you today. Today, we are going to look at a mysterious case of the disappearance of Elisa Lam, a young woman whose final moments remain shrouded in mystery. Okay, before we get into the story, into the true crime story, let me say that I want this episode to be a little more casual than my first episode about Jeffrey Dahmer. I felt like I come off a little bit stiff during the program, and I didn't have it free-flowing enough and opinionated enough on some of the events that I was describing. So we want to be more casual with this and still be informative, of course, but we want it to be a little more casual and a little more friendly. With that said, let's get into the actual disappearance of Elisa Lam. What we're going to talk about now is the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. In early 2013, Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian tourist, checked into the Cecil Hotel. She was a student at the University of British Columbia. She also was struggling with some mental illness. On January 31st, she vanished without a trace. And it's my understanding that her mental illness was bipolar disease. There may have been some other issues going on. I'm not for sure, but I think the main thing was she had bipolar. She was bipolar. What is interesting about her disappearance is there is a security footage from the Cecil Hotel. It's commonly called the elevator video. On February the 13th, the Los Angeles Police Department released that video, and it really gripped the world. It showed Elisa behaving erratically at the hotel elevator. She was pressing buttons, peeking in and out of the elevator, gesturing as if she was talking to someone, even though there was no one there. The video went viral, and it left viewers puzzled and disturbed. Her behavior was really unusual. You don't see people acting like this normally. I actually have the video, and I've upscaled it to make it a little more clear. It's still not the best video. You can think, back 2013 security camera footage. But let's take a look at it now. If you're watching the actual video on YouTube, or if you are just listening, of course, you're not going to be able to see the video. But let's take a look at the video now. As you can see from the video, her behavior was really unusual. The only time I've seen people kind of act that way, and it wasn't really a big thing back then, was when they're on drugs or medication, over-medicated, or if they're on some kind of recreational drug like meth. I've seen people who are on meth talk to people it's not there, and see stuff in the woods there's no one there. So I'm not saying that she was on drugs or anything, but I've seen people act that way, but usually there's a cause. We don't know the cause of why she was acting that way. The next part of this story, it might be a little bit gruesome to some people, but we do need to talk about it a little bit. This was on the hotel's roof, the Cecil Hotel's roof. On top of that roof are several large water tanks. More than 2 weeks after her disappearance, Elisa's nude body was found floating in one of the water tanks on the hotel's roof. Her clothing was submerged in the same tank. The Los Angeles coroner ruled her death an accidental drowning, citing her bipolar disease as a significant contributor to the cause of her death, that she got into the water due to her bipolar disorder. But there's many questions that still lingered about her getting into this water tank. First of all, the water tanks have lids on them, and they're normally closed. And that was one of the main questions. How did Elisa end up in that water tank? Why was the lid closed when she was discovered? So her body was in this water tank, and the lid was closed on it. Now, who closed it? If you're in that water tank, I'd say it would be hard to reach up and close the lid on that water tank. Did somebody else close it? That's a big mystery on that part. Was she alone, or was somebody else involved? Maybe it was actually a murder. That's speculative. That's just speculation, I guess, on my part. But how does this water tank lid get closed after she gets into the water tank? The autopsy revealed no signs of trauma, but the circumstances were baffling. The Cecil Hotel is known for its dark history, which also added to the mystery of what actually happened to her. There were some other interesting things and theories about this strange death. A lot of time it is referred to as the dark water connection. Some early internet sleuths drew eerie parallels between Elisa's death and the 2002 horror movie Dark Water. In that movie, a woman's body is found in a water tank on a rooftop. So they had the question, was life imitating art, or was it a mere coincidence? Very strange. A lot of times now we see that they always say that the Simpsons cartoon is always predicting the future of what's going to happen. The legacy of the Cecil Hotel, it's a haunting. It has a haunting stigma to it, as being a haunted location. Some things maybe you didn't know. The Cecil Hotel actually had a name change. It has now been rebranded as Stay on Main, so it's not really known as the Cecil Hotel nowadays. The case of Elisa Lam, it's become a modern day enigma. It's really intrigued people. Was it all just a tragic accident? Was it a suicide maybe brought on by her bipolar disease? Or was there something more involved? Was it a murder? Did somebody actually take her up there and put her in the tank and close the lid? Her memory in this story fills what used to be the Cecil Hotel, Cecil's Hotel's corridors. Her name echoes across a lot of true crime podcasts. I'm not the first one to cover this story. A lot of people have talked about it, and we could probably spend a lot of time talking about it. Perhaps one day the truth will surface, and we'll actually know the truth of what happened to her. There is possibly more security video out there somewhere, or maybe someone saw something and they've not really told it yet. But this is a very interesting case, and one that people are intrigued by. Just exactly what happened, we don't know right now, but maybe someday we will. Thank you all for listening to this episode of CrimePrint. Remember that some of these mysteries, they just defy explanation. So until next time, keep your eyes open. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us and we just don't see it. Until next time, y'all be safe.